The Tupolev Tu-2 was one of the best frontline bombers of World War II. Fast, maneuverable, and reliable. But you know, it was also designed inside a Soviet Gulag prison camp. The lesser-known fact is that Andrei Tupolev, already a world-famous aircraft designer, was arrested in 1937 on false charges of sabotage. He spent 4 years in a sharashka, a secret prison bureau where educated inmates were forced to work for the state. The misconception is that the Tu-2 was a simple copy of a German or American design. In reality, Tupolev sketched the initial concept on scraps of paper in his cell, using only his memory and a smuggled pencil. The overlooked consequence is that the Tu-2 proved a political point that Stalin never fully accepted. Creative people do their best work when given autonomy, not threats. A bomber born in a prison camp outflew most of the aircraft designed by free men. Andrei Tupolev was arrested on October 21, 1937, accused of belonging to a Russian fascist party, a complete fabrication. He was interrogated for weeks, sometimes kept standing for 24 hours straight. He did not confess. The Soviet secret police sentenced him to 10 years of hard labor anyway, but Tupolev was too valuable to put in a coal mine. He was assigned to TSKB-29, a special prison within the Moscow aircraft plant, where guards watched every movement. Inmates slept on barracks cots, ate thin soup, and worked 14-hour days under bright lights. The Soviet Air Force needed a new frontline bomber in 1940. The existing P-2 was adequate, but had limited range and a cramped cockpit. Stalin's deputy, Lavrenti Beria, made Tupolev an unspoken offer. Design a superior bomber, and you might survive. Tupolev assembled a team of fellow inmate engineers, men who had designed airframes, engines, and avionics before their arrests. They worked without blueprints, without calculators, without any reference books. Everything came from memory. The wry observation is that a prison camp turned out to be an excellent filter for raw talent. If you were useless, you were already in a coal mine. The men in Tupolev's team were there because they were too skilled to kill. The Tu-2's breakthrough was a lightweight, stressed skin construction that saved hundreds of kilograms compared to conventional bombers. Tupolev remembered this technique from his pre-arrest work on the AN-T-40. He also chose two Shvetsov ASH-82 radial engines, 1,700 horsepower each, which gave the Tu-2 a top speed of 550 kilometers per hour, faster than the German Bf-109 of 1941. The prototype, designated 103, flew for the first time in January 1941. Tupolev was not allowed to watch. He watched through a crack in the barracks wall. Here's an overlooked human detail. The test pilot, Mikhail Nyuktikov, was also a prisoner. If the plane crashed, the pilot would be executed for sabotage. If the plane succeeded, the pilot might receive a sentence reduction. Nyuktikov flew the prototype through every maneuver in the book. Dives, rolls, single-engine stalls. The plane handled beautifully. Stalin approved production in December 1941, just as German forces reached the outskirts of Moscow. But then a bureaucratic problem emerged. The ASH-82 engines were also used on the Le-5 fighter, which had higher priority. Factory after factory told Tupolev, no engines, no bombers. The Tu-2 nearly died right there. Tupolev's solution was an engineer's compromise. Redesign the bomber to accept less powerful engines. The M82FN produced 1,850 horsepower, but required a new cowling design and relocated oil coolers. Tupolev completed the redesign in 6 weeks while still a prisoner. His guards reported that he worked through the night, slept 2 hours, and just kept going. The first production Tu-2s reached combat units in September 1942. Pilots loved them immediately. The Tu-2 could carry 3 tons of bombs, fly 2,000 kilometers, and defend itself with two 20mm cannons and 3 machine guns. But honestly, the most valuable trait was something the specifications didn't capture: handling. The Tu-2 was forgiving. A tired pilot after a long mission could still land it on a rough field. The controls felt balanced, not heavy. The cockpit had decent visibility, which was rare for a Soviet bomber. German pilots who captured a Tu-2 in 1943 reportedly asked to fly it before it was shipped to a test center. They confirmed what the Soviets already knew. It was superior to the Ju-88 in almost every metric except production cost. Tupolev was released from prison in 1944, still technically a convict, but now working as a free designer. He received the Stalin Prize for the Tu-2. The joke among his former inmates was that Stalin awarded the prize to the bomber, not the man who built it under guard. By the end of World War II, the Soviet Union had built about 2,500 Tu-2s, fewer than planned, because factories kept switching back to fighters. But the Tu-2 remained in service with Soviet and Eastern Bloc air forces into the 1950s. It even saw combat in the Korean War, flown by Chinese and North Korean pilots against American jets. The Tu-2 was outmatched by F-86 Sabres, but it held its own as a ground attack platform. The human limit of the Tu-2 was not its design, but its crew. Bomber missions over heavily defended targets required a navigator, a bombardier, a radio operator, and a rear gunner, 4 men in a cramped fuselage. The Soviets lost 800 Tu-2s during the war, mostly to flak, not fighters. Each lost bomber meant 4 dead or captured crew. There was no parachute training for Soviet bomber crews until late 1944. That is a staggering fact. For most of the war, Tu-2 crews were expected to ride the plane down. The Tu-2 story matters today for a reason that isn't about airplanes. It's about the relationship between pressure and creativity. Tupolev designed a masterpiece under conditions designed to break him. But that does not mean prison produces good work. It means that exceptional individuals sometimes produce good work despite prison. The broader lesson is about institutional trust. Stalin's system could not tell the difference between a saboteur and a genius. It imprisoned both, then demanded brilliant results from prisoners it had tried to destroy. That contradiction, punish first, then beg for talent, is not efficient. It's just cruel. And yet the Tu-2 flew. It flew because one man remembered how to build an airplane and refused to let his guards erase that memory. The best designs come from clear minds, not broken ones. Tupolev's genius was not that he worked well in a gulag. It was that he worked at all. Subscribe to War Machiner and share this if you value history that goes deeper. War Machiner, subscribe, share, history that goes deeper.